My name is Norman Juder. I'm currently the Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft Digital. I've been in that role for about 10 or 12 years, and I've been very fortunate inside of Microsoft to be able to define the role and be able to change it as the technology has changed along the way. Artificial intelligence didn't happen last week. The research around artificial intelligence has been going for 40, 50 years, many cases back to the MIT Media Lab, languages like Prolog and Lisp, and then sort of quietened down for a little bit. There was lots of activity and funding and then sort of quietened down, but more recently has become more visible. And it's become visible really on two things. One is the richness of the algorithm. So the computer science research continues on neural network design, on the richness of the algorithms that are there. So that's the one hand, but you also have to have a place to run it, and that's where the cloud comes in. And so it's the combination of algorithms in the cloud that makes artificial intelligence today accessible and available to everybody, to experiment with, to play, to understand, to use. And so the democratization of artificial intelligence, the making it available to everybody, is what we've seen in the last year or so, but it's not new. This ideas, the research has been going for many years. I think you have to step back much as we have and take a broad view of the topic of ethics. And if you do that, you can fold into that things like privacy, for example, because how you accumulate and use data from other people is actually within that ethical framework. So we're elevating the conversation to not only be about privacy and behavior, but more at the much higher level of setting some ethical principles. And we believe that we will do this, but we believe that every company, because every company is a software company to some degree, and that every company will need to actually have their own manifesto about AI, about how they think about artificial intelligence, how they think about using information, how they think about the role that humans play when artificial intelligence is there. We believe that humans still have a very active role. One of the dimensions of that would be just about judgment, is really trying to understand how the AI engine is working, how the recommendations are being made. And today, many of the systems that we see today are actually what I'll call advisory. In other words, the system is making a recommendation to a human to take some action. But very quickly, they're going to go to closed loop. And we see that with autonomous driving, for example. And in closed loop, the system is actually making a decision for you and taking the action, and then coming back and say, by the way, I took some action for you. And so as we go through that, the role of people, of humans, the role of artificial intelligence has to be elevated, where companies, individuals, big and small companies around the world are going to have to take a position around the ethics of artificial intelligence. The science fiction that was written in the 1940s and 50s was incredibly forward-thinking in the projection of where it is. And Asimov himself, in firstly I, Robot, but then there was another trilogy called the Foundation series. That's a trilogy of 4 books that actually talks about big data. He actually is very articulate about the statistical value of big data and predicting the behavior of people. The one thing that he missed, though, was that he assumed that you had to have intergalactic scale to be accurate on prediction. And we know today that's not true. Many of the software providers today, on a smaller sampling set, can actually predict behavior down to me as an individual, can personalize it. But again, these are things that he was writing back in the 1940s and 1950s. And I think today we're missing some of that in the literature, where we're being incredibly articulate about a likely future position. So I think the work that he did in that day was quite stunning in terms of its predicting of the future. The one mistake that he made with Asimov was he was about 50 years out, because he was actually predicting what we're seeing today as being 50 years from now. So his prediction was right, but his timing was wrong. We've moved quicker than he thought. The question with AI, to some degree, we believe is actually going to be the role of humans and judgment, which is the ability of people to actually understand how the algorithms are working and how the recommendations are being made. One of the things that we've seen today, though, is that if AI systems are not cared for, are not fed, doesn't have somebody watching them with that judgment, the algorithms can decay, and they can decay where they could slowly introduce bias. Essentially what has to happen is that people have an active role to play. It doesn't mean that you can leave the system to itself. The systems become organic, and like any organism, they change and grow and reshape themselves, and somebody needs to watch that. And so there still is an active role for people in doing that. The state of the industry today, though, is that we're learning. We're learning from the autonomous vehicles and the AI systems in vehicles and how they're navigating through traffic, how they're deciding on emergency situations and what they do if a dog walks into the road. And so the notion of privacy starts to change a little bit, because if I get value, I might be willing to release my information and have the AI system learn more about me, learn more about my context, but there has to be value in it for me. And if there's not value, or I don't really understand the nature of the projections onto my persona, then that makes some people nervous. As we develop and experiment today with artificial intelligence solutions, whether around people or production or finding things or helping me understand things, there always will be a place somewhere in that sequence of things where somebody has to sit back and actually take a deeper understanding of what's there. And so there are today, we're learning about the possibilities of what has happened. And as we start to learn about those possibilities, we can start to take the corrective action. And so the opportunities that AI presents to actually help people find things, help people find information, help people get things done in their work, in their social environment, in their home environment, I think you'll see more and more people adapting to that technology, much as the same rate as they adapted to mobile technology. If we think about the way we use mobility today than what we did 10, 15, or 20 years ago, it's changed the way people talk, communicate, collaborate, find things. And I think AI will change that. AI will help you find information, and it'll help you get things done. But everybody has to have a set of principles around AI, whether it's a company or an individual or a government or education. The core principles of AI need to be understood.